Welcome to the Business Insider Podcast, where we interview the top business leaders in their respective industries. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today, I am excited to introduce a special VIP guest. We've got Amira here. She is the owner and brand architect of a company called Diversion Agency. Amira, thank you so much for coming on the pod today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Very excited to have you here today. So I'm sure our audience is wondering, specifically what you guys do and really what the major outcomes are for your clients. So before the podcast, you'd kind of given me a brief rundown on what that looks like. If you wouldn't mind reiterating that to the audience, Amira, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So I run Diversion Agency, which is a branding and marketing agency. And we help business owners and creatives and high performers clarify their identity and communicate it in a way that resonates visually, verbally, strategically, um, in tons of different ways. Whether it's creating a brand identity from nothing, for creating the name of a company from nothing, and then creating the entire visual brand identity, and then putting it into a brick and mortar space, and then all into the digital space from website, social content creation, but always following the strategy along the way.
Very nice. Now, if you had to define your superpower or the unique skill or insight that really sets you apart in your space, what would it be and how has it shaped your success?
Good question. It's really made me think, this one. I was like, what is my superpower? I don't know. Okay, so I guess like strategic empathy I came up with, in the sense of like, I feel like I can see people and their businesses very clearly, especially upon meeting them, sometimes more clearly than they can see themselves. And I can translate that into a brand that just not just feels aspirational, but also like grounded and actionable. And just connecting the dots between what someone does and what they want and how to express it in a way that feels magnetic to their audience, but also real and authentic at the same time.
Definitely. Okay, makes sense. Now I'm curious, what kind of inspired you to pursue this current path? I mean, how'd you get here?
Long story. I guess the short answer is like I've always been interested in marketing, and from the time I was little, my mom used to always say that when I would like go through magazines, I was always looking at the ads and just like analyzing them and loving them. But I started my career in the music industry, actually in New York City, working with different artists and at major record labels. And I think from there, it was also during a time when social media was becoming more and more prevalent, and understanding the value of social media and the value of personal brands, and that all of that needs to like align together with then at the time working with artists, like having them do brand partnerships with larger corporations and major brand deals, seeing that and the value and the importance and the creative behind that, I think, along with the strategy, was really interesting to me. Um, and so fast forward, I ended up, transitioning a bit into more of the branding space and creative direction, and was the creative director at a digital marketing agency in Philadelphia for a few years. And I really enjoyed it, but I was wanting to dive a little deeper into the areas that I found interesting and the clients that I wanted to work with and align myself with. So I decided to take a risk, and almost 8 years ago, actually in a couple weeks, it'll be 8 years. 8 years ago, started my started my agency, and hit the ground running from there.
Well, congratulations. I mean, 8 years, that I think I think the statistic something like 99% of businesses don't make it in their first year, something like that. So you're eight down the road. That's great. That's great.
Thank you. Actually, within the first month that I started, I think the scariest thing for people, one of the scariest things is going out on your own, is not having obviously the security of like your next
Right.
paycheck, right? So I was worried about that, obviously, but I was just like, okay, I'm going to give myself 6 months. And if it works, like it works. If it doesn't, we go back, whatever. So when like within the first month, I closed more, uh, in more money, in like the amount of money in deals than I'd made in like the few months prior. So to me, I was like, okay, I'm on the right path. we can make money doing this. That's
Yes,
good to
yes.
know. And then within the first 3 months, I actually closed my one of my first and like biggest clients, which was Bethany Frankel and Skinny Girl at the time,
Very cool.
and handling all of that like social media. So, and that was something like, I've always admired her as a business person and from a branding perspective. So for me, I felt like, okay, we're on the right track here.
Definitely. So you mentioned before the podcast that you moved to Italy and you're kind of looking to tackle, both markets. Through your journey, how powerful has networking been to your success? And what would you recommend to other entrepreneurs to up their game?
Okay, that's a really good question. Networking, I was just talking about this. Networking is so important. And I think I'm actually very grateful because, especially in the music industry in New York, when I was starting my career, like the music industry is all about relationships and building relationships. And I feel like I understood that early on and was always like building relationships with people. And I think that is, another secondary, maybe superpower of mine is just building relationships no matter what. I just like talking to people and,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think a lot of people now do so much digitally and don't create like as much of a connection or don't necessarily understand the value of networking, and how it really can play into changing your career and your life and your business or whatever it is truthfully that like you want to do in life. I think from my perspective, especially of living in Italy now for a year and from the US, there are the US people in the US, like we're taught to be very independent and individualistic. And here in Italy, people are so social, and especially in the South, they're so social and they rely on their communities and they rely on each other and they're always helping each other or trying to. And I think that from a business perspective, that is something that I'll say, especially for women, we have a hard time asking for help. And I think that if more women were like, and people were helping each other and supporting each other, instead of competing, like everyone can win. We don't have to like compete against each other. We can just all win together. Everyone, even if you have an agency similar to my agency, there's something different. Like you have yours, I have mine, your clients are different than mine. Like we can work together and help each other. So I'm
Exactly. I
very,
mean, you brought up a lot of great things there, but kind of, summing up what you just said, referral partnerships, right? That's such an important part of being a business owner is having other businesses that you're referral partners with, right? You just said, you may be both agencies, but if you offer different services, maybe you have similar clients, but it's like, oh, I don't build out voice agents, but you do. I'd be happy to refer you to, your company do voice agents. Oh, I don't do digital marketing. Why don't we, like, right? So it's like a swap. It's a win-win for everybody. So, and then I think, on the networking side of things, I've really noticed a lot of young entrepreneurs in this day and age, like really, really struggle with it. And like I can say for myself, like it took me like a lot to like really get good at it and just like get out there. Like I
yeah,
think between COVID and growing up in the social media age, like
yes.
for younger entrepreneurs, it's just like very, very hard to go to networking events and shake hands and like go get a cup of coffee with, some random other business.
Yeah.
Like it's just tough.
It is, but I think especially for younger entrepreneurs or younger, it could just you don't have to be an entrepreneur in business, like no matter what you're doing, no matter what, if you could be a teacher, I don't care. But building those personal relationships and like you said, going out and getting a coffee, that's going to just put you ahead in so
So
many
far.
different ways.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I can say for myself that if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be nearly as far as I am today. I've met a lot of amazing people, have some great mentors too, and I credit, like a lot of that success to the networking. Like even if I met one, there's like a couple people I've met that ended up being like giant deals for my company. It's like I always think about like if I didn't, at the bar say something to that guy,
Absolutely.
never would have closed that deal, never would have had the relationship. And it's just like, wow, like just by saying hi to someone, you never know what can happen.
Literally, shoot your shot. It's already a no if you don't do anything. You know that saying? Like, it's just you can't worry about like someone. I think people worry too much about the other person and like, whether what if they think I'm weird if I just walk up to them and say this is okay, but who cares? You know what I mean? Then you never see them again and like
Yeah.
or there's an opportunity. Like, it's just
Hey,
try it.
definitely. So kind of switching gears here a little bit, let's talk about AI. So obviously this is impacting pretty much every industry out there. How is AI impacting your industry and are you utilizing it?
It is definitely impacting my industry. Uh, for me, I think though, like, I don't know, I always try to look at the positive with pretty much everything, but in the beginning it was like, okay, this is cool, and then okay, this is kind of scary. Like, is this going to take over people? Um, but I think what I'm finding is that if you're able to use it as a tool, there's so many different options like for using it as a tool, depending on what you're doing. I personally think it's helped in my agency with increasing efficiency and increasing us just kind of getting, even myself at times, like just getting to the next level in the sense of, okay, we might be stuck on this, but maybe like this can help us like spark a little idea or lead us somewhere. We still are very, very hands-on and very, personally creative in the sense of using our actual brains and our actual experience. Because at the end of the day, I think experience is the most important thing, and also like the human side. And I think to answer the second part of your question, I think with AI and having so much AI that's going to be coming more and more in the future, people are going to want the opposite, and they're going to want something or to feel something that is more human. And they're going to want to look at an ad or look at, you know, a photo that feels like it's real versus something that is created, that is fabricated.
Definitely. I think a great example of that is when you'll see like a blue collar business like making their own ads versus like maybe a really talented agency that makes an ad for their client. Obviously, an agency that has a lot of talent is going to get a lot of traction for your clients, but sometimes you'll see those like really poorly made like blue collar ads. They're kind of just like the family friendly like dad jokes, and you'll see them blow up, and people in the comments are just like, it's real. Like I actually like I resonate with this because it's like it's just you can tell that they really put a lot of passion into it, and they're showing off maybe their family or their friends, and it's like I agree, like that personal connection is never going to go away, and we're going to continue to see that grow because people are getting more lonely. Let's face it, like times are changing, and a
Yes.
lot of people are dealing with a lot of mental issues and loneliness, and like we
Yeah.
need that human connection now more than ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I fear that I just don't want people to start thinking that like this artificial connection isn't artificial. Like it is still actually artificial.
Yeah.
Like you do need people, you do need to network, you do need to talk to people, like you can't just talk to ChatGPT all day. So that's hopefully, that's like something that people still remember.
I think they will. What is something that happens behind the scenes that you wish clients could see?
I guess that's a good question. Behind the scenes, maybe just the amount of time and effort things take that clients think, especially in the world of AI now, that it just happened like that. And even if it's an idea that maybe I came up with an idea in 10 minutes, right? But that is also still my years, decades of experience that let me get to that point,
Exactly.
and also like a talent that let me get to that point. It's not just because it's easy or it looks easy or whatever. Like that is something that I wish clients sometimes could see and appreciate, because sometimes when they just see the final product, especially depends on the type of client that you're dealing with. Sometimes it can be challenging when you have clients that are starting a business, or are new to the business space. They're very talented, but they're new to the business space and they don't really understand everything that goes into creating a brand identity, even, and that's just like step one. So all
Definitely.
that time and thought and strategic thinking and energy and then design work, and like we do our best to think of everything so that you don't have to, and think 12 steps ahead so that when we deliver a 65-page brand identity guideline, like a brand deck, then everything is already thought of, so that if even if we
Right.
weren't there with you moving forward, like you can do what you need to do. But I don't know that a lot of clients really understand the amount of thought, effort, experience, and energy that goes into that.
They don't. No, I definitely agree with you.
So
So, if you could talk to yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself to do differently, if different at all?
10 years ago? Hmm. Let me think. Okay, so I don't think that I would do that much differently, to be quite honest, because I'm a big believer in, your path is your path and everything happens for a reason. Um, I think I think I would probably just maybe get out of my own way a little bit more.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think sometimes with like business owners, it's difficult, because you wear so many different hats and you feel like you need to do everything. And sometimes, like, I wish, after a couple years, like, I was just doing everything myself for the
yeah,
first few years. And that was fine. But I wish that I, took a little bit more of a risk, even like financially, or like took out a loan or did something to hire more talent to get me a little bit further earlier on
yeah.
instead of kind of like holding myself back and thinking that I needed to do these things, like investing in myself to grow quicker.
Definitely. And at the time, it's so hard to like, it's so hard, it's so easy to look back on. And that's why I
Yeah.
asked the question, because it's so easy to look back and say, like, here's what I could have done or here's what I should have done. But at the time, you didn't know it was going to turn out the way you did, right? So
Yeah.
you made the best informed decision you could at the time. And,
Yeah.
like you said, it paid out. Everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, at the same time, I'm also someone that like I like to learn different things and understand, and especially in this space, it's changing all the time. So I also don't always want to have to like rely on somebody else to do something all the time. So like when I was the creative director at the agency, I then like started going to school and learning graphic design,
Right.
that wasn't in my wheelhouse before, but now like I can do the design if I need to. So things like that.
Definitely. So, in your experience, what do you feel like is the biggest problem in your industry from your client's lens, and what are you really doing to solve for that?
Um, I would say I feel like there's like a huge obsession with aesthetics, which for sure is important. Uh, it's for me, it goes one of two ways. And I think that well, I know this is one of the reasons I started my business to begin with. I felt like at the time there are these creative agencies that make everything beautiful, completely stunning, wonderful design, far ahead of its time, but like there's not much strategy behind it. And then there's these digital marketing agencies that are killing it with strategy. Like they know what to do, how to do it, all the things that need to lead to where they're going. But it's not pulling you in very well as from like a branding perspective or design perspective or even just copy or anything like that. So one of the things that was really important to me in general was really like just combining these two. And that's why, I created a creative marketing agency instead of saying like, okay, digital marketing or we're a creative agency. Like, now we've kind of shifted and we're focusing, yes, it's still creative and marketing, but we focus a lot more on the branding side. Um, and yeah, I think just that's pretty much it. I feel like help like I'm like trying to think of how to phrase it. Like there's a lot of pretty brands that say nothing and they don't convert anyone. And, we create identity first and then expression. And I think that's how you stay out and like stay consistent.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, Amira, if you wanted the viewers to take away one thing from this interview, or you could impart with one final thought or idea, what would that be?
Okay. So I would say branding, when it comes to branding in general, it's not just about looking good, as much as I love for things to look good, which is very important, by the way, but it's about being understood. If you want to grow, then your brand has to make people feel something and feel something fast, especially in today's, we're scrolling with TikTok every 5 seconds to like the next, whatever's next. So
Yep,
otherwise, you're just noise.
quite the challenge for us marketers.
Yes. And that's the thing, like even going back to your other question, like the amount of time it takes even to just create one little social media reel sometimes when it's a good quality one and people like watch it and it's like, okay, next. I just spent 4 hours on that. So
So
yeah.
yeah. So I mean, for anyone out there, in the audience that wants to connect with you, maybe work with you, Amira, what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Just visiting diversionagency.com would be great. And, we have a contact us page and that comes straight to me. So I'd be happy to work with all types of different brands and like I said, high performers, creators, different people who are looking to establish their personal brand identity, or business owners who are trying to create the vision and the identity for their brand and their business and their future.
Amazing, amazing. Well, guys, definitely go check out what Amira's up to. I'm going to link all of her stuff in the description. She's doing a lot of amazing work for her clients and is a seasoned veteran in the industry. So again, Amira, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. Had a blast having you on and learning more about yourself and what you're up to.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely, my pleasure.